So Andrea and I were talking about mental illness and spiritual illness, I guess you could say, uh, and the Savior casting out demons back in the old days in antiquity, right? Uh, we know very little about the brain, and we know very well. Mankind, we know metaphysical things, but we 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 don't completely know everything about spirit, do we? We very little, like almost nothing. We as Latter-day Saints and other Christians and other people that believe that we are not just bodies with a brain, we are also spirits, believe that there's something spiritual going on with us. Even when your brain registers things, like science will go, well, it has to be mental illness because the brain, we can see the brain registering or there's little parts of the brain that are active or disactive, inactive during these episodes of mania or whatever. uh, but that doesn't mean that we don't have a spirit, that's something spiritual is going on as well while that activity is going on in the brain. I firmly believe, not firmly believe, but I have a theory that the brain might do very little. It might just be something that is controlling our motor skills and telling our arm to move and eyes to blink and nose and breathing, and because the adrenaline gets flowing and the blood and the heart beating, we things register, okay? Or when we're eating, you know, things will enliven in the brain, or during sex, or anything like that. But our spirit, people that have had near death experiences talk about their spirit leaving their body, and they can still think, and they're aware, and they can actually think more clearly. So do we think the majority of our thinking, does it come from our brain or does it come from our spirits? So back to demon possession, right? We saw a lady. I just dropped Andre off, but we saw this lady. She was talking to herself, and in our town, where our neighboring town, which we both grew up in, we have a homeless problem right now, and it's getting bad. And we see people, and even my own father had schizophrenia. We see people with schizophrenia, or people yelling and screaming and talking to themselves as they're walking. Those the people that Christ said that he cast demons out? And how do we know that's not demonic activity? We don't know. Scientists know very little about the brain. Brain surgeons would say they know very little about the brain. They know when they touch something, something happens, or they kind of have an idea of where some of the storage is and some of the processing is happening. Uh, but we know very little. And even if that is active or just or not active during psychosis, it doesn't mean that it's not caused by demonic activity. Joseph Smith taught that spirit is matter, but it's more refined. And I firmly believe that one day we're going to know that there was much more spiritual activity going on in our physical world than we could imagine right now, um, and more miracles happening. But anyway, yeah. So does that make sense? Uh, Demonic activity uh, could very well be mental illness sometimes, and mental illness sometimes. I'm not saying all the time. And but I have known some people that have been in those situations, and they had some pretty bad, they did some bad things to people. But there are also people that suffer from schizophrenia, and that's different. And they even children can have that. young people, and it's not anything they've done bad. So I think there's a difference. But yeah, sometimes it could be demonic activity as well.